All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The discussion begins right now. We'd like to hear your views on every single thing that we're going to talk about. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Let me introduce my guests real quick, beginning from my right. Professor Tom Ojienda, Senior Counsel, is here. Honorable Boni Halwale, former Senator for Kakamega, is also here with us. Thank you so much for making time. On my left, Honorable Pio Wandai, Member of Parliament for Gunja, is here. And Honorable John Kagusha, Speaker, Nyeri County Assembly, is also with us. Asante sana for making time. On the front page of all the of the Daily Nation and the Standard at the same time, Ruto, it's my turn on one side, Ruto, my promise on the other side. They outline the list of the things he's promising to do. One, on the first day, we will free DCI, KRA, EACC from state capture. That's the same thing that is repeated across board. If you're wondering what we're talking about, this is what the Deputy President said during the UDA NDC that happened yesterday. Listen to this.
On our first day, we will free the DCI, we will free the KRA from state capture. As they weaponize the KRA, we will do the complete opposite. We will professionalize the KRA, digitize the KRA, and make sure that it collects all the taxes professionally, so that we can collect taxes and we don't have to fight Kenyan enterprises and destroy people's businesses. On our first day, we will operationalize the judiciary fund so that we can free the judiciary, give them financial independence so that they can discharge their responsibility of sorting out disputes, making sure that criminals are put behind bars, and making sure the corrupt find their place in jail. The DCI and the IG will have financial independence, and they will never again depend on the office of the president for them to discharge their responsibility.
Honorable Wandai, is there state capture?
Well, it all depends on what one means by state capture. I suppose the Deputy President is simply venting his frustrations against a government that he continues to cling on to. It's a total irony. It's total demonstration of lack of principles. For one to bastardize a government that he continues to serve, whilst continuing to get benefits from that government. But let me say this, Trevor, I know where you're coming from. The speech by the Deputy President Ruto yesterday was very, very unfortunate. It was the lowest that a public officer, a state officer of that country can ever think. And why do I say so? Because unless Mr. Ruto controls his anger, he is going to destroy himself. But if it were just any other person, he wouldn't bother. But Ruto, you know, has got some following, some people who believe in him. However few they are. So he might lead them as well into destruction. So he needs to be helped by people like Boni Halwale and my friend Kagusha here. Because the path he has taken is leading him into total destruction. He is just woken up to the reality that he is losing this election, the election of August 9th. And he's going to lose it by a very big margin, very wide margin, I can tell you, from here. And if you are in doubt, call me back here on 10th or 11th of August. I will confirm to you that Ruto has lost it. He has gone ballistic, talking about things that I am sure he does not believe in. Because how can Ruto talk about ethnicity or ethnicizing governance, whilst we know that in the first term of the Jubilee administration, he was essentially leading a co-government, a co-presidency with Uhuru Kenyatta. And when he was given a chance to nominate people to the cabinet, he nominated almost entirely people from his ethnic group, the Kalenjin group. I can say that without fear of contradiction. And have the names. The names are in the public domain. His side of the government of the Jubilee was entirely comprised of people of Kalenjin ethnic extraction, whereas the Uhuru side had to be shared by all Kenyans, other Kenyan communities. That is one. Two, he's talking about uplifting the common man. And yet he is not mentioning what he intends to do in the very unlikely event that he ever comes close to power, to deal with the monster called corruption, which all of us know is the elephant in the room. In the entire speech that he gave yesterday, there is no mention of how he's going to deal with corruption. And the reason is simple. He cannot purport to deal with corruption. He can't even imagine. Because corruption and UDA and Ruto is one and the same thing. And therefore, he is misleading Kenyans that he has got any plan to uplift the economy, whereas he is not dealing with what is stifling the economy, which is corruption.
Okay.
Thirdly, he is talking about freeing institutions of government, to make them independent financially and so on and so forth. And I think he's living in denial, or he's just come from some universe. Because as we speak, the judiciary fund that he's purporting, that he says he intends to operationalize, I can tell you, is being operationalized. And come the next financial year, it will be fully operationalized. So I think since he left government, essentially, many, many years ago, he has not been able to follow through what is happening in government.
Okay.
So in a nutshell,
yeah,
that was a terrible show.
Okay.
What happened in Kasarani. Okay. And I want to believe that if that is the strategy for them to get any votes, then they have lost it, and they should be preparing themselves to cobble together an opposition.
Okay.
Yes.
Boni Alole, what did you make of this speech by the Deputy President? And does he have a point when he says that the state capture of the DCI, the KRA has been weaponized, the judiciary fund needs to be activated so that they're independent from the executive?
I'll try and restrain myself from responding to the ranting by my good brother Wandai. You know, when you come to a show like this, and I can see you are not a frequent member of this very distinguished panel, you don't come here to do fortune telling. Here we discuss facts. To tell us how your crystal ball casing has shown you that this person or that one will win or lose is not the core business of this show. Now, to come to your issue, the starting point is that when we talk about freeing DCI, KRA, EACC, and other institutions that have been captured by the state, yeah, it's important that viewers know what exactly it means. State capture is not a joke, Wandai, and I'm glad that you're a lawyer. State capture is where political corruption permeates the corridors of government systematically so that private interests are served at the expense of public interest. KRA, Wandai. KRA has been weaponized to the extent that if you were to ask Humphrey Kariuki, a proud Kenyan who has worked to hero, what became of his business empire, maybe he would tell you, go and read my book. If you have witnessed what is happening to Keroshe Industries in Naivasha, then you understand what it means by weaponizing KRA. And this is not just limited, Trevor, to the big industries like Keroshe. Even little businesses like hardware owners, little shops, if you are not supporting in Karatina, for example, and other parts of Mount Kenya, if you're not supporting that Mongorel called Azimio, you start having problems from KRA because of how you run your hardware. Number two, capture of the DCI Wandai. You know of cases that they gobble against elected leaders and other leaders purely for purposes of intimidating them to move from their whatever political persuasion that they are having. It is serious, and why the Deputy President was right when he said that from day one, it is because you don't need to do anything special. All you need is the goodwill that from today going forward, the KRA shall not be used to do politics. DCI, EACC, and so on. On the issue of appointment of accounting officer, one day, you live in this country. Constitution of Kenya 2010 has been around for 10 years. So when you come this morning and tell us that it is about to be done, are you saying it is so difficult to operationalize an accounting department in areas where it is required? Let's go, for example, in the judiciary. The judiciary is captured because they do not enjoy the independence of having their own budget. This does not require any further legislation one day. It just requires an accounting officer to be appointed and be posted to the judiciary and parliament to vote the money and allow the judiciary to be independent from the executive. I know those of you who have benefited from that kind of nonsense, or who have relatives and associates who've also benefited, you see absolutely nothing wrong with it. But the pain of it all is that it makes a mockery of the criminal justice system to the extent that where we have got weak-kneed judges and magistrates, and with all the respect I have for them, they are influenced in making some decisions because they do not have financial autonomy.
Okay. Ojen, Prof, and you've been there in this legal institution for quite some time as a senior counsel. Is there state capture of the judiciary specifically before you get into weaponizing of KRA and the DCI?
Trevor, thank you very much. I must point out that the judiciary is cushioned by the dictates of the Constitution. I say so in this manner, that right from the framework set out under the judiciary chapter, Article 159 of the Constitution, to the manner that judges are appointed by the Judicial Service Commission, it is clear that the intention was to ensure that judges are independent, and that is why we have an independent Judicial Service Commission. I sat in the Judicial Service Commission, and therefore I know that we went through a process that was independent. We were able to put many judges into office, including the then Chief Justice Maraga. We put him into office as then Judicial Service Commission. I think that the judiciary or judges once appointed stand on two fronts. One, they must stand for and safeguard their decisional independence. Decisional independence is that independence to make decisions as judges. And that is individual, will range from judge to judge. You must guard your space as a judge. That's point one. Point two, the question of judicial independence is an institutional question that touches the entire judiciary. Now, state capture would be to describe a situation where judges would be influenced by the executive or by other organs of state so that they don't decide cases on the basis of facts and law before them.
Does it happen?
I have not seen that in the judiciary. I would say that there are sensitive cases where the state would obviously be interested, but it is upon judges. And I know that many judges have come out to make decisions that demonstrate the independence of the judiciary as an institution. Now, the fear of capture usually is where there are highly political cases. But even where Mheshimiwa Senator has referred, Alwale has referred to the possibility of an interest in a case, I do not think that we have known of a particular judge who has been bribed or who has been influenced by state to make a decision that would be in favor of the state. It used to happen previously. I know that when in the KANU days you had a judiciary, an executive, and a legislature that was essentially one. Yeah. But I think the pressure to capture the judiciary, the pressure to ensure that judges make decisions in favor of certain set of fact or interests, I think is diminished by the very strong foundation that we have in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. I think that has protected judges. Yeah. It is no longer, you don't appoint judges, the executive doesn't appoint judges anymore. You have to go through a process. Yeah. And even in terms of the disciplinary processes, you go to the Judicial Service Commission, and it is clear that that has really protected judges. But let me just weigh in on some of the other concerns on capture. I think the Deputy President, in alluding to questions on KRA and the ESCC, and I think that Honorable Halwale has talked about institutions. He's talked about certain possibilities that maybe some people have been accused not correctly, as he says, because of their political leanings or their political orientation. I believe that for any person who knows their rights, whenever an accusation is made without a basis or foundation, the courts are there. You must challenge the processes. If KRA serves a bill or wants payment or seeks to close an institution, I think like the Karaoke case that he cited, I think the Karaoke case went all the way to court, and the court quashed some of the excesses that were made by KRA then. And I believe Judge Kimaru made a decision that stands out on the question of investigation. He said that the DCI cannot investigate tax matters. And that's an important foundation. Now, on the other questions of, I think he's talked about Karochi and other, I believe that there's a mechanism, a very elaborate mechanism, under the Tax Procedures Act 2015 as amended 2018. And let me tell you that there's an elaborate ADR method that will enable you to establish tax owed. So just go the whole length, establish what is outstanding. And I think all these things, in the meantime, if it is difficult, you can go to court, approach the court or the tribunal and question some of these things. Lastly, on the judiciary fund, I agree with Honorable Ndai that the judiciary fund has been operationalized. The only concern would be the judiciary budget. The judiciary budget, of course, moved in the last years from 17 billion to 12 billion. I think the judiciary must, the legislature, of course, that is the protector. When you have the framework of expenditure under appropriation under Article 2 or 3, and the PFMA that you know the period that Parliament actions expenditure. I think the judiciary needs to be protected in terms of budget. And I believe that the best way would have been to affix the judiciary budget at least 2.5% as in other countries, so that you cushion the judiciary from having to negotiate for monies to run and to claim independence. Because I'll tell you this, however, and I agree with probably my learned friend at this point, however strong you are, when you are not financially independent, you become vulnerable. But I think we must ring-fence the judiciary. This institution must be the judiciary, so that the judiciary has enough funds to run its affairs. All right.
Honorable Kagusha, what did you make of the speech by the Deputy President? And do you agree with these issues that were raised, the state capture of DCI, weaponizing of KRA and the judiciary fund?
Yeah, well, I think with the speech yesterday by the Deputy President is really one of the best speeches that you have had in the recent times, because the Deputy President did bring out very strong points, especially that bedevils our country today. And he did not only bring out these points, but he also proposed very practical solutions to most of the problems that we have faced as a country. And one of the things I also, maybe just a very political issue, just I would want to point out as I go to these other points, is that it was clear, for example, that we had the Mount Kenya people kind of now trooping back into what would have been seen as the original Jubilee, you know, and which, of course, has transitioned into UDA. And you could clearly see what was kind of agreed in 2013 and what was the foundations of the original Jubilee in 2013, kind of the Mount Kenya people and, of course, other peoples from the country now coming back into it. And, of course, that was very refreshing for us. Now, the issue of the state capture, there's a reason why, for example, the Deputy President did not mention the judiciary in this state capture allegation or issues, as it has been enumerated very clearly.
Yeah.
Judiciary has remained way independent than many other institutions, even after having very serious attempts to try and change the course of judiciary. They have largely remained independent, and most of the decisions in this country have been made independently. And that means that the judiciary, in a very serious way, has been serving the interest of Kenyans. Of course, unfortunately, they are still not financially dependent, and that has been clearly put. Because what we actually require is to have a fund that is completely independent of changes and manipulation from the Treasury and also from legislature. Yeah. Because sometimes the legislature will actually threaten to reduce the budget for judiciary for certain reasons or for certain actions that are taken by judiciary. There is also a reason why the DPP was not mentioned in this. In the original scheme of works by those people who had sought to use the institutions to manipulate, intimidate, and coerce political opponents into certain positions, in that original scheme, DPP was supposed to be in that arrangement. In fact, it was supposed to be DCI. We point out a political issue. We pick it up at the DCI level. It's pushed together with the EACC, and it is handed over to DPP and completed by the judiciary. Yeah. But clearly, the DPP was wiser. Along the way, he jumped the gun, and he refused. In fact, a lot of cases that he received were not having proper supporting documents and evidence as to how they have been arrived at. Yeah. And so he refused to become part of that scheme of works. And that is the fact where this has been punctured. So you have remained now with largely political cases that have either not been prosecuted in court, rather prosecuted in media and in the public places. You have remained with many cases that even if they are taken to the court, they do not get the kind of verdict that the government would want. And so for that reason, it's clear that these bodies like the KRA and DCI have largely been serving the interest of political class. And you can imagine how much energy KRA would probably be using to be pursuing political cases and political tax collection and allegations. Look at the issue of Kariuki, Humphrey Kariuki. I mean, he was given tax fines and charges of 40 billion. His industry was closed. The gentleman had even to relocate a lot of his businesses from Kenya to other countries like Uganda and Dubai, because he can't have peace in Kenya. And that, definitely, you know what that means. It means that we kind of, waste the resources that would have been otherwise invested in Kenya, waste job opportunities that are here in Kenya. Yeah. And what happened at the end of the day, the courts actually found the KRA wrong to have charged him this kind of taxes. And so what you're saying is you just need to free these institutions, and you need to bring on board professional accounting officers so that you can have someone who is totally accountable. And of course, we also have had police. Yeah. By and large, the police definitely work under the command system. But by and large, they have restrained, in many instances, from being used in the wrong way by the government. And you can see the good intentions coming from the police themselves. But of course, the orders come from time to time. And sometimes you can see how they find it very difficult to implement some of those orders. And so what we are saying is, as a country where we have now reached, we must accept that we are supposed to be at a higher level of democracy in this country, and we can't accept to kind of go back to the old days where the government institutions would be used for parochial, personal interests that would be used. I mean, that would take precedence over and above the public interest, and we need to ensure that all the taxes and the resources that we are investing are for the benefit of the common mwananchi. And of course, the Deputy President dwelt quite a bit on explaining clearly that the bottom-up approach really has nothing to do with the bottom versus the top. I think that really was a very important point, that it is moving people from the bottom to the top, but not having a face-off between the top and the bottom. I think that was also very clear.
Okay, we'll come to that in just a bit. Pio, you wanted to give a quick...
Yes, very quickly. Two issues. One, and following our discussion this morning, it should now be clearer to all and sundry that once you are a national leader, before you go to the public, before you go out in the public with serious issues touching on policy, you must do your homework. The Deputy President did not do his homework on the matters he was talking about, including the judiciary management. Let me say this, and I'm happy that Senior Council Agenda has actually agreed with me. I must thank the current Chief Justice, Honorable Martha Koome, for having made it possible for the three arms of government to start engaging positively and constructively. Just last week, Trevor, I was in a meeting in Mombasa as a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, together with my colleagues from the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, a meeting that brought together the Chief Justice and her deputy, together with the heads of other officers of the judiciary, plus the Speaker of the National Assembly. We discussed these issues, and in fact we agreed largely that the way forward is not just to implement the fund, but to ring-fence the budget in the manner Senior Council Agenda has suggested, to make it at least 2.5%, which is universally acceptable, in the budget. And this can be done in the PFM Act, by simply amending the PFM Act, Trevor. William Ruto should advise his troops in Parliament, if they still exist, to go and propose an amendment to amend the Public Finance Management Act of 2015, to ring-fence the budget of the judiciary. Secondly, and this is very, very important, we did agree that we need to start creating avenues for the judiciary to also benefit from appropriations in aid, so that in the budget, I don't know, Halole should know this, he has been in Parliament for a long time before, maybe he's forgetting, that we allow judiciary also to benefit from appropriations in aid in the budget, and we are trying to do this in this current budget cycle. Hopefully before elections, we shall have allowed the judiciary to utilize the appropriations in aid. If you don't know what it means, these are monies that they should collect and are factored as part of their budget, just like other institutions benefit from the same. So that is already a step in the right direction. So this lamenting and ranting by Ruto is neither here nor there. Secondly, as I conclude, you know, you can't continue crying that the judiciary or the DCI, the KRA has been weaponized against you. Why don't you ask yourself, Trevor? You know, in the last parliament, the last term of government, from 2013 to 2018, I was a member of the minority, or opposition, for that matter. And I was one of the fastest critics of Uhuru Kenyatta and his government. No single day did I ever get DCI, EACC, or KRA coming for me. Why? There's nothing to come for. So if you keep the company of thieves and lawbreakers and corrupt individuals, you cannot run away from it when the law starts catching up with them. So the law is basically catching up with William Ruto and his cronies. That is the fact of the matter. And me, I don't know how to clothe things. I can't clothe facts. No, Senior Council Agenda is diplomatic. He's a serious legal mind. But in politics, which he's joining now, of course, I know he's running for Senator of Kisumu. Here it is bare knuckle. So if somebody is lying to the public, we must respond in equal measure. Yes.
Is Honorable Andai trying to incite the good professor?
I have to take a quick break. When we come back, something else came up in terms of the elections and whether it was rigged or not. That coming up in just a bit. Let's take a quick break. Keep your views coming on every single thing that we talk about at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. See you shortly.